Hello and welcome to the ESTECO Technology Spotlight. This is Dario Campagna from the ESTECO R&D department. I'm here today with our product managers Danilo Di Stefano and Marco Turchetto. Danilo is the product manager of ModeFrontier, our desktop solution for process automation and design optimization, while Marco is the product manager of ESTECO Volta, our SPDM enterprise platform. How are you doing, guys?
I'm fine, thanks. Thank you for inviting me here.
I'm doing good, thank you, Dario.
Today, we will talk about how digital transformation trends like hyperautomation, AI engineering, decision intelligence, and cloud influence the evolution of ESTECO digital engineering software solutions. Let's start from hyperautomation. This is a business-driven approach that organizations use to identify and automate industry-specific processes. With regard to the simulation and analysis domain, the integration and process workflow automation has always been the cornerstone of our technology. Over the years, we expanded its usage to different levels. Danilo, could you tell us more about the continuous maintenance and development of new CAD and CAE integration for ModeFrontier engineering process workflow?
Yes, sure, Dario. Integration and process automation are very important to be effective in engineering design optimization. In ModeFrontier, we have a very powerful way of integrating even the more complex tool chains graphically, without the need to script or to code anything. There is a kind of graphical way of introspecting the model that you want to use and to automatically extract the inputs of the model and the outputs of the model. And more than this, you can also link two or more solvers to reflect all the simulations needs for your specific engineering design problem. For what concerns the continuous integration, in ModeFrontier, you know that we have a lot, let me say, of what we call direct integrations with the most popular CAD and CAE solvers. We are always committed to cover even the latest releases of the solvers that we release as direct interfaces in ModeFrontier, and we do this by applying a kind of continuous integration approach at development level of those interfaces. That means that we are always and continuously testing even the latest releases of those solvers in such a way that ModeFrontier is ready to cover them at the release time.
Also, recently you introduced an alternative approach to build the workflow, which promises to improve even more the usability of ModeFrontier. What is all about?
Yes, it is a new approach to go directly from your model file of your preferred solver to the optimization run. Usually, to do this, in ModeFrontier, you need to build the workflow. With the guided process, it will be possible to skip this phase, basically. You will be presented directly with the introspection when you drop the node on the ModeFrontier canvas. The introspection will pop up. You will have just to link the input and output variables of the model with the entities, corresponding entities in the ModeFrontier workflow. And then, if you want, you can go directly to the planner, where you can define the optimization strategy and then run your optimization problem. In this way, also the learning curve that is usually needed to use effectively and efficiently ModeFrontier will be reduced in such a way that you will be able basically to skip, the most critical phase, that is the workflow building phase in ModeFrontier. At the end, a very, very easy way to go directly from the model file to the optimization results.
Marco, is this guided process approach also available in Volta?
It will be, in a sense that I really envision the guided process to be in an enterprise environment like Volta. And also because the guided process is really the ESTECO answer to the problem of democratization. What I envision is similar to what Danilo said, in the sense that I want to actionate a CAE model directly on the web. So that you as a user will drag and drop a model, and then Volta will tell you what are the available inputs and available outputs for that specific model, and then it will bring you to the planner environment, where you will be able to specify any design space exploration strategy that you need to fulfill. So, as I was saying, the democratization is really one of the biggest trends in an enterprise environment. So we want to bring simulation users up into the platform.
All these new capabilities look really nice. Our process automation technology has recently evolved with the introduction of business process management, BPM, capabilities, and is no longer limited to the engineering process workflow. Now users can combine the management of human tasks with simulation workflow automation. Marco, could you explain why BPM technologies makes an impact in the context of an SPDM framework like ESTECO Volta Enterprise Platform?
Before getting to the point, I would really like to introduce what business process management is as a discipline. Personally, I love the definition which is given by Gartner. They define the business process management as a discipline that uses various methods to discover, to model, to analyze, and to optimize business processes. And this business process coordinates the activity of people, of information, and data and things to produce business outcomes. So nowadays, all companies have at least undefined processes in place. But at ESTECO, we believe that business process management can really help companies to map, to standardize, and execute engineering design processes. This is why we integrated business process management into Volta. Because the final aim is to reuse the knowledge. So once you have your process mapped and standardized, you can execute it as many times as you want, always in the same way. So back in the past, we had the options to choose which was the best standard to use for business process mapping. Our research and development team worked hard in order to select the BPMN 2.0 standard, which is the business process modeling and notation standard, well recognized and maintained by Object Management Group Consortium. So the final aim with business process management in Volta is to really improve the visibility and the interaction between the management, the engineering, and the simulation departments. Final goal is really to bring everybody on board and break down the silos.
You mentioned that companies still rely on undefined processes to manage simulation. How does BPM help to address organizational issues and break down technical silos across departments?
Yeah, I was mentioning previously that all companies have at least undefined processes. With this, I mean that more or less everybody in a department knows who is doing what and when. But the fact is that they rely on papers, on emails and phone calls, or even shared drives to pass the data. So they put the models into a shared drives. But with this approach, you will never know if the model that you are working on is in the latest version, is the correct version or not. So those are all common practices nowadays. The point is, the manual task is still performed by a single domain expert. So I was mentioning before that with BPM into Volta, we want to break down silos. The reality is that silos are very well present in companies nowadays. So, and then there's also another aspect which BPM can help, which is there is a lot of time which is spent by the engineers and by the subject matter experts to look for the correct data. There's a recent IDC research, a report that says that 30% of the time is spent by the engineers looking for the correct data, which is a huge amount of time. And with BPM approach, we want not only to deliver the tasks, but we want also to deliver the correct data for the engineer to work on. And then there's a problem of visibility that I was mentioning before. Nowadays, SPDM systems or also project management software, they rely on Gantt charts and pair charts, but those have limitations in the sense that with a Gantt chart, for instance, you have an overview of the entire project, but it's difficult at a single task level to understand what are the inputs, what are the outputs, what data was used to perform the task. And so with BPM, we want to overcome these limitations. So with BPM, you can really map a sector of activities, and then the really great thing is that you can execute those processes. So, and also previously I was mentioning that from undefined processes, we can go to standardized processes. So with the BPMN 2.0 standard, you can really map any kind of business process, and you can really standardize it into a business process that you can reuse in the future.
But how do you map and execute engineering design processes in the Volta platform? Could you tell us a bit more about the Volta Modeler and Volta Process Manager environment?
Yeah, sure. So the Volta Modeler is a BPMN 2.0 standard editor with which you can map any kind of business process. You can map user task for activity for people, and you can also use the Volta service task, which is the activity to call in an automatic way an execution of a simulation workflow. And for this reason, the Volta service task is the missing link between the high-level business process and the low-level simulation workflow. I was mentioning before the BPMN 2.0 standard couples a human-readable graphical representation of your business process with an XML encoding. And this XML encoding can be executed by a machine. It means that with the Volta Process Manager, you can run those business processes that you mapped with the Volta Modeler. Main advantage of this is that the user tasks are delivered to the correct people at the right time, bringing also the correct data to be executed.
And also in Frontier, Dario, we are going to take advantage of the BPMN standard because we are using this standard to drive the innovation of our proprietary workflow, to drive it toward a kind of standardization. Standardization is a value as itself, because it allows the user to be sure about what each component does in the context of the global workflow. And at the same time, we are using the BPMN standard to extend the modeling capabilities of our workflow. Is a key factor because it allows our users to be more efficient and to extend the range of the applications that the user can do in Frontier. We are still not sure if we are going to implement a purely BPMN-based workflow in Frontier, or if you are simply driving the innovation of the current workflow to be fully BPMN compliant in the future.